Good afternoon and welcome to the Rutherford County School Board System School Board Meeting, December 15th, 2022. First call to order, our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wall is going to lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We're going to deviate from the agenda just a little bit, if y'all will give us a few minutes. Up first, Dr. Sullivan, you want to talk about who's up first?
So first, we are going to move into recognition for Oakland High School football. They are being recognized by the County Commission at 6 o'clock as well. So what is neat is we have a lot of athletic and extracurricular talent, of course, across Rutherford County schools, but there are only 6 directors of schools out of the 147 across the state of Tennessee that get to recognize a football state champion. So congratulations to Oakland High School. The Oakland Patriots, led by head coach Kevin Creasy, completed a great 14-1 season, defeating Beach High School 42-6 on December 4th to win the TSSAA Division 6A state championship for an unprecedented 3 years in a row. The Oakland Patriots have a 44-1 record the last 3 seasons, 8 straight region championships, 58 straight region wins, 41 straight in-county wins, and 65 straight home wins. Coach Creasy holds a 110-7 record in 8 years as Oakland's head coach. So congratulations, Coach Creasy. Mr. Marshall, if you guys want to come up and introduce your team, just say a few words. I know, Mr. Marshall, you never get called to do that one, but.
Appreciate it. Guys, if you'd stand up, please. We have most of our seniors here and a few of our underclassmen that are starters. Just wanted those guys recognized real quick. And also Mr. Marshall, glad to have him in attendance. Our coaches, if you guys would stand up. Those guys are some of the hardest working individuals I know. And if you want to just give me a round of applause with these guys, I'd be happy. Also, I want to give a big thank you out to you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Public servants are definitely hard to find nowadays with the public scrutiny that goes along with it, kind of like football coaching. But at the same time, very valuable to our community and very valuable service that you do for all of us. Thank you for representing us. And Dr. Sullivan, appreciate what you've done, and I need to know your ring size.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you. Also, thank you for the mints you threw to my kids at the Christmas parade. Greatly appreciate it because they felt left out. Glad you noticed. Thank you.
Mr. Evans, are you going to do pictures? Okay, afterwards, so don't leave it.
You want to do pictures out front? We can go ahead and do that. Thank you, guys.
Before you all go out, I do want to say that one of these coaches is very special to me. This is one of my former students, Mr. Watson.
And then next on the agenda, I would like to request that we move, let me go to the very back, is,
17.
yes, number 17. So facilities and construction. We actually have a county commission meeting that is going on at 6 o'clock as well. In the event that we have any questions about some of the Fund 177 that we are using for the purchase of portables, I've asked Mr. Lee to go over there as soon as we finish. So if the board's okay with it, I'd like to go ahead and move number 17 up.
Mr. Reed, are we okay voting on that since we have not approved the agenda? Okay, thank you.
All right, so we will start with number 17, Facilities and Construction, tab 7, Laverne Middle School Addition and Renovation Credit Change Order. Robert S. Biscayne and Company has submitted a credit change order in the amount of $240,015.85 for remaining contingency funds not used during construction of the Laverne Middle School Addition and Renovation Project. This would change the contract amount for the construction of Laverne Middle School Addition from $13,273,640 to $13,033,624.15. Engineering and Construction has reviewed the request and agrees with the credit. Recommended approval, motion to approve the credit change order submitted by Robert S. McCain Company for $240,015.85 for the remaining contingencies not used during the construction of Laverne Middle School addition and renovation project. This will decrease the final contracted amount from $13,273,640 to $13,033,624.15 as presented.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the change order. Thank you.
Thank you. I also never knew that being a math teacher and no one had to read numbers were out, those were going to come in handy like they do now. Goodness gracious. Number 2, Browns Chapel Elementary. Principal Kelly Goostree submitted a request for an Eagle Scout project for Browns Chapel. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and approves. The approximate cost for the ball court is $3,000 and will be funded by donations coordinated by the Scouts. This project will be at no cost to the board. Recommended approval, motion to approve the request from Browns Chapel for an Eagle Scout project at no cost to the board as presented.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. Do we have a
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to oppose or abstain? Motion passes for the request for Browns Chapel. Thank you.
All right, number 3, Rocky Fork Middle Fire Alarm. Maintenance is requesting to replace the fire alarm system at Rocky Fork Middle School. The fire alarm panel has been damaged beyond repair by a voltage surge believed to be caused by a lightning strike. Rocky Fork Middle's existing system is in Edwards, and we would prefer to change to the Firelight Silent Night system utilized in our other schools. Budget for this request is $150,000 from Fund 177. Ending fund balance is an emergency request. Recommended approval, motion to approve the request to replace the fire alarm system at Rocky Fork Middle School. The utilized Fund 177 ending fund balance at a budgeted cost of $150,000 is presented, and we discussed this at length at our board work session to make sure we are still in compliance.
Tuesday night. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the new fire alarm system at Rocky Fork Middle.
All right, number 4, Information Technology Department, 100-day contract position. The Information Technology Department is requesting the approval of a 100-day contract for Arden Curtis to assist with technical documentation. Arden will be retiring January 31st, 2023, and has been a valuable employee overseeing our Microsoft servers, Office 365, and other related technical duties as assigned by the department administrator. Arden has been assisting to train her replacement for the previous few months. The purpose of this contract is to assist as needed and to continue this transition. Funding source will come from existing technology positions that are not filled in ESSER funds and not to exceed $40,000. Recommended approval, motion to approve the 100-day contract for Arden Curtis to be funded through existing budgeted ESSER funds not to exceed $40,000 as presented.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for a 100-day contract for Ms. Arden Curtis.
Thank you. Moving on to number 5, Eagleville Football Scoreboard. Principal Tim Pedigo is requesting to replace the existing school board with a new one. Cost for the replacement is approximately $29,000 and will be funded through the football club and private donations. This request is at no cost to the board. One new support beer will be needed due to the increase in the size of the sign. Engineering Construction has reviewed the request and approves. Recommended approval, motion to approve the request from Eagleville School to replace the existing football school board at no cost to the board as presented.
I'm surprised Mr. Pedigo's not here tonight.
I am too. I'm sure being a Thursday night, they probably have a basketball game.
I bet they do. Any comments or questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Tidwell. Thank you so much. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the Eagleville School to replace their football scoreboard.
Thank you. Number 6, Afternoon Dispatch and Routing Assistant. Transportation request to fund an afternoon dispatcher routing assistant from existing transportation funds. This individual will be responsible for communicating all afternoon route changes to parents and schools. This individual will cover all extended afternoon dispatch for power hour routes, and this individual is needed due to the increased ridership of students this year. Recommended approval, motion to approve funding for an afternoon dispatch routing assistant from existing transportation funds as presented.
Any comments or questions? I've got one. I don't know, Mr. Lee, how your department does this. We have so many moving pieces, and I see a lot in my neighborhood, so thank you and your staff for keeping our kids safe, and we know you need some more help, so.
Move to approve.
Thank
Ms.
you on
Darby.
behalf of the ladies in the department.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Motion passes for an afternoon dispatch assistant for transportation.
All right, and last, bus inspection coordinator, customer service, transportation request to fund a bus inspection coordinator and customer service representative from existing transportation funds. This individual will be responsible for coordinating and maintaining documentation for annual bus inspections. This individual will log all failed and passed inspections. This individual will assist in answering a high number of parent, driver, and school calls to ensure that problems are identified and corrective action is taken. This individual is needed due to the need for tracking bus inspections for contractors and school activity buses. Recommended approval, motion to approve funding for a bus inspection coordinator from existing transportation funds as presented.
Any comments or questions?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for a bus inspection coordinator.
And then we covered our land update on Tuesdays. Or any information or questions from any board members?
Do you have anything else? No? Okay.
Nothing new since Tuesday.
I think that's it.
All right, I think we're good, Trey. Thank you, and I'll meet you over there.
So we're going to go back to number 4. Approval of the agenda, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the approval of the agenda.
Number 5, approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Motion passes for the approval of the consent agenda. Oh, we do have visitors.
Okay.
We have 2 visitors. We have 3 minutes, and first I have John Dietrich. Is he here? No? Okay, American Heart Association, and then Mozella Jackson. Okay,
I think we took care of their consent.
I think we did, yeah, I think, yeah,
John was here. Yeah.
I think they were going to
Other
have, thought they were going to have more opposition
Yeah.
than what
Yep.
they were met with, so, okay, so number 8.
Yep. Number 8 was our RSP enrollment analysis update, and we had a lengthy update on a huge document with our enrollment analysis. One of the questions that was asked was Rockville High School seemed to be declining in enrollment, which we knew just didn't quite seem accurate. And so Rob sent us an updated spreadsheet today. There was an incorrect calculation for Murfreesboro City school kids moving into our high schools, and I sent that to the board just a little while ago. It looked like it added about 120 to 140 students at some of our high schools. So if you'll just review those numbers, he said that there was no need for him to come back and present that because he'll have more conversations with us over the next couple weeks and months ahead, and we'll reflect that information. But those numbers have been updated. He also kept the previous numbers as part of the appendix so that you could see where the fluctuation was.
It was a great presentation. Number 9, y'all.
Yep, all right, number 9, so salary study, so an additional scope of work, and we do have Stacy here with us, so I'm gonna read, actually, we'll go ahead and, is Stacy ready, John? So, oh, yes, there she is. So we've worked very much, quite a bit with Stacy, so thank you for all your work with us that you continue to do, and I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Director, there for allowing me to be here this afternoon, at least virtually, to give you an update on the compensation study that we conducted and what we found during that process. I'm going to share screens. We tested this briefly earlier. Hopefully this still works for us. And if you've got questions, you're more than welcome. I can hear you guys really well, so ask along the way or hold them till the end. Share screens. All right, did that go into presentation mode? It did not. Let me share that one more time so I can share the right screen. How about now? Are you guys seeing the presentation, full presentation mode?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, we'll walk through the overview here to give you an idea of what we found along the way, what we were looking to find, and then the recommendations we have. Is it gonna let me advance slides? Ah, there it goes. So the goals of your project for your compensation study was to look at your current salary structure you have in place, look at your peers' organizations to see how you lined up against your peers, how competitive you were with those salaries, to make sure have that external equity, to make sure your staff are being compensated fairly and competitively. And then ultimately produce some recommendations moving forward. You know, what do you need as far as a salary recommendation, and is there anything else that we identified during the course of that study to recommend to you? So this is a compensation study looking externally. So we were not looking specifically at classification and structure internally, staffing levels or needs, an efficiency study, organizational review. And another expectation I always like to throw in there is, you know, whenever we're doing these reviews, I never want to promise an across-the-board employee salary increase for everybody. What I do want you to expect, though, is a thorough look at the compensation study and look at that comparison to your peers, and then providing you those recommendations to help get you to where you need to be. So progress on your current study, where are we at, what have we done already? Initial project, getting the project kicked off, set those meetings, review your scope of work, identify the needs, talk about the data needs that we need to get started, and then conduct what we call an assessment of current conditions. And I'll touch on that a little bit more and tell you what we found there. Next part of what we're doing is your leadership meetings and interviews. Conducted those just a few weeks ago. Was able to get up there and talk to all of your staff and met with them one-on-one, all of your directors, to really discuss what their issues were, what their concerns were, where are some opportunities maybe to do some things a little differently moving forward. And we talked about the recruitment and retention of quality staff to make sure you can attract and hold on to your people. And then the next part, I'm gonna do completed with a star there. That's your market analysis. We've received data from just about all the peers that we identified, and all or partial to match your classifications. So I feel really good about the results that we've got so far. If we get a few stragglers to give us some data, we'll update it as needed. So before I jump into market position, let's talk about assessment of current conditions real quick. That's what I call that AOCC. That's where we look at your current database, look at your employees, look at where they are now in your current pay structure, what kind of pay structure you have, how are you using it, what are the strengths and weaknesses of it. At the point where we did the data collection back into September, 1st of October, you had about 5,900 employees in the database at that point in time. Now that number moves throughout the course of the year as people kind of come and go, but that was our starting point. Found out average tenure was about 9.3 years across all classifications and departments. Your salary does appear to be closely tied with tenure. So people are, as they are there longer with the district, they move further along in their salary structure. Found out about 58% of your employees are paid above the midpoint. Now that's for the employees that are on your step plans. If they aren't on a min-max scale, obviously I can't tell you a midpoint. But you have a group of employees that are on your certified administrative, your tech, nurses. Those are all on pay range systems. We found that we didn't really have a thorough or good listing of all classifications that you're currently utilizing. I think really that's more due to the system that you're looking to hopefully update here pretty soon. just some data entry and how it tracks and reports data. Found the index that's applied to your administrative certified positions. It doesn't appear necessarily to follow best practices, but the separation between the levels. You've got multiple pay plans, alluded to that already. The design of those pay plans is inconsistent. Found out that there are just some differences in the structures, the number of plans, how people are assigned to pay grades. There's some opportunity there for some updating of your plans. Not all of your employees are assigned to a pay grade within a pay plan. You have quite a few classified salary positions that are more on a flat rate type structure with just annual COLA adjustments. Your pay ranges across the board, all totaled for your certified and your tech, your nurse plans I mentioned before, it's about 39.5%. I will say that's pretty narrow compared to what a best practice would be. I would have anticipated your ranges to be at least 50%.
And Stacy, by narrow, do you mean there's just not enough from bottom to top, beginning to where someone can top out?
Exactly, yeah, bottom to top, because you guys do the step in lanes, and I always think horizontally, but yes. So what I mean there when I say narrow, from minimum to maximum in their salary range. So there's not much room for growth or movement during the course of that employee's career. They're topping out pretty quickly.
Perfect. And the other thing, just to point out, when we talked about multiple pay plans and inconsistent in structure, I highlighted that during our work session on Tuesday. That's really talking partially about our classified staff, how some of them are in different pay structures and don't necessarily get a step raise every single year, correct?
Yeah, that was that primary area, right? There's a lot of variations in the design of them.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for clarification, that 39.5% narrow is looking into the classified salaries, correct?
That's classified, that's where classified had pay ranges and your certified where I had pay ranges.
Which the conclusion is that there's no room for growth, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yes, yeah. They're topping out pretty quickly in that pay scale. And like I said, a best practice across municipalities and schools, a lot of times those will be 50 to 70. Given your area, your district, your need, and your peers, I would have anticipated at least 50%. All right, did my slide change? Okay, we had a little bit of a lag there. So for your market analysis, we completed this, I'm still getting a few slow responders giving us a little more data points here. But we've got at least about 3/4 of your peers have responded, so we've got good data to look at these comparisons and see where maybe your adjustments should be. We've got, as you'll see here, about 20 organizations we identified as peers, and we did select not just school districts, we also selected other municipalities, because a lot of your classified positions, they can move in between government agencies very easily. So when you're talking to somebody with a CDL, you've got your maintenance, your trades, HR, finance. Those are all positions that move pretty easily between different government entities. So we wanted to get a mix of both. We did apply a cost of living index to the numbers I'm going to show you, and we did that to make sure we were equating the value of $1 to $1, because as you can see here on the cost of living index on the side, there's quite a range here in where you're positioned at 100.6 and your peers all around you, okay?
That's surprising for me to see us above Metro Nashville Public Schools to have a higher cost of living. So that's great information to have.
Yeah, absolutely, and all of this will be contained in your report, so you can take and use and however you need to later.
What's the city of Nashville? It's still Metro, but they're separated out.
The way
The city of Nashville is 103.1 and Metro Nashville is 95. So I'm curious to know, where is city of Nashville?
Good point.
I would need to go pull that back for you. I don't have my file in front of me right now, but I'm happy to email that back over to you. These data points come from it's a federal listing that we get these data points. And they've just recently been updating quite a bit of them. So I'm happy to forward that to you later.
Yeah, that'll be great. I didn't even know we had schools within the city of Nashville, so.
For your market analysis, so I've got over 150 classifications that we used as benchmarks. So we use really a lot more than we normally do, honestly, because it's been a while since you guys have taken a good look at all of your classifications. Some of your classifications are very specific to you, so there just was not good matches. But we wanted to use just a really broad representative number of classifications. So I think we got almost all of them. We've got so far 600 salary range data points that we've collected. There was the other data that was given to us by some of your peer organizations, but they just were not good matches for your classifications. And so when I say 600, those are what I'm calling my good data points. And then we got a little over 100 average actual data points. And I see a typo on my presentation. Over 600 there for your salary ranges, that's the range min to max. And then the 100 average actuals, that is the actual salaries of those positions. So what we've asked them, and some of these peers did supply for us, was, all right, you've got, 10 maintenance 2 level positions. What is the average of their salaries? So that's what we're looking at there. That gives us a good comparison to the salary data to say, where are they paying them within these broader ranges, okay?
And for classifications, you're really just talking about that's an individual job description, correct?
Yes, job descriptions.
Thank you.
And so with your classification matching processes, I already spoke to it just a little bit, but when we're looking at that, we're reviewing not just a job title, because a lot of times title doesn't match, but we're looking at job descriptions to make sure about 70% of what the level of experience, the education, the essential skills of that position. Do we have a good match there and what that position is responsible for and its level and roles, responsibilities? If it doesn't match at least about 70%, then we don't use it. Using those 600 data points though, we found out on the front end at those market minimums, you guys are really about 4.95% ahead of your market peers. And that's on average across the board. Some are going to be less, some are below. But with those narrow ranges that you have, that we spoke to about at 39%, as you progress through that salary range, you can see that you're losing your market position. So your market midpoint, you're 2% below, and the market maximum, 9% below. So that is primarily a function of having an endpoint that ends a whole lot sooner than a lot of your peers. Now, another thing that we talked about while we were going through this data, looking at what you have and how can we best help you get to where you need to be, is the needs that you have internally. You guys have experienced a lot of growth over the last 15, 20 years and have done a phenomenal job with your schools and building the schools and meeting the community needs, and sounds like building a heck of a football program there. It's time to take internally that, what do you need internally? What do you need now to support the needs of the community and the schools and all of your staff? You guys are pushing almost 6,000 employees, so that's not a small organization. And we identified these areas, classifications. There seems to be an inconsistency in use of classification titles across departments. Your title, think jobs have been created to meet a need as they've kind of come up over the years. So a great time now to step back and take a look and determine, right now, how do we refine what we have now? Not a consistent use of specific job title names, and really creating a defined hierarchy of your classifications, setting them up in a new pay system, aligning them appropriately based on roles, levels of responsibility. Your organizational structure, I think there's probably a need there to look internally at how you're organized, what your leadership structure looks like. Is that meeting your needs? And then data management, I put this on here, it's not class and comp, but it does impact you. And I know that this is something you guys are working on, but your current data management systems would need to be updated to fit kind of the contemporary use of all of that data.
So the DOS-based system for budgeting that our county used isn't
I
being
wasn't
correct.
gonna say DOS, but since you
I'll say it.
mentioned.
That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know too many people that know those old DOS codes anymore. Recommendations moving forward, I would recommend conducting a classification study, evaluating each position using a job assessment tool. And that way you can evaluate each position, what it's currently doing, and how it relates to all the other positions. Create a career path in those fields where it makes sense. You know, where you need to create those levels, define them out so it's a transparent process of how you move from one to the next and move up those chains. Make sure you're providing consistency and equity internally. Align those positions appropriately in a pay plan. I'd love to be able to create a new compensation structure for you guys. Set one up that meets your certified, classified, and administrative needs. Build consistency for you in approach and design. Your step plans, there's a lot of variation in your step plans. Something there that is a bit more transparent process, more contemporary, and more in line with what a lot of your peers are doing. An organizational structure, I would add on like some staffing level data to see how your structure, your staffing numbers compares to these other peer districts. Now, aside from the internal look, if we were only going to talk externally right now and talk about where your pay is compared to your peers, is an adjustment that you need to make. You did a COLA adjustment recently on the front end. You're doing well. If you wanted to apply another COLA adjustment, it would keep you at or above that peer level. I would look to maybe, at least in the interim, extend your maximums if you weren't going to look internally and revise your pay structures right now and broaden out those scales to meet the needs of those long tenured employees. Across the board changes may not be appropriate given your current market position. Like I said, on the front end, you're pretty competitive. You're losing as you progress. Recommend broadening the salary ranges, and then internal structure, creating something to give you that consistency of what you need moving forward to fit where you are now. And that really brings us to the end. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I can quit sharing and go back so I can see you guys.
I have a question. So in the goals and the expectations, does this study kind of also shows what holes are missing that we should be plugging in as far as areas of like, is there staff that we should hire that we don't have to meet the needs of our district? Does that bring that up, or this is just strictly a study of what we have and how we can best use our resources, meaning our people with the salary?
So if the second part of what you're talking about there is more of an efficiency study. That would be looking at what your internal processes are, where your staff are aligned, how they're working, what are those improvements you could find in efficiency as an organization. The part that I think that I would recommend you start with would actually be, are your staffing numbers appropriate given your size, given what you are supporting within the district? And so I would get staffing numbers, a breakdown of departments, a breakdown of staffing numbers, and then compare them to what you have to find out, are you comparable to these peers? A lot of your staff, and talking to them, I mean, you've got a lot of folks that are wearing multiple hats, which is not uncommon, but it creates tired staff after a while.
So that's a separate study then?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's part of what my recommendations are.
It would be a
Number
separate
9.
study.
Oh, that's part of your recommendation.
They're looking
Gotcha.
at class numbers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
That's going to
Stacy,
be
we
added
have-
to the scope?
Yeah, it's added into the number 9. What we have is the tasks down here. I believe it's number 4, collect staffing level data from up to 4 peer districts and determine comparable levels. So Stacy and I have met multiple times going over all of this. And so if you'll look on, I don't know what page, it's It's number 9, the salary study additional scope of work, and then you'll see the tasks that are listed. Stacy and I met last week to look at, because we'd hoped to have everything done, but our data is just not, it's not ready to be done. And there's some other areas that we have holes in that we need to be able to fix along with this while we have the opportunity. So Stacy and I met with our team and came up with these 8 different recommendations of what to add to it.
And that is the part of the scope that you're wanting to add to it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, and part of that would actually be us coming up there, we would administer that job assessment tool and then score all the positions, and that's something that is administered to all of your staff. They have an opportunity to speak to their position and what they do, what role they serve, and then we can review that and then create a hierarchy of all your classifications. But then on top of that, I would recommend, and that's what's in the rest of the that next piece there, is actually bring in myself and one of my classification, actually subject matter experts up with me to review all of this and create that hierarchy for you guys and identify where we need to create those career paths. And just spend a couple days, probably most of a week in person.
So just for clarification, what you just said, that will yield a restructure organization, org, right? Like it'll restructure the organization of how everyone should be mapped or linked up to.
We will definitely tell you what your other peers are doing and how they're structured. And then your staffing numbers to meet your needs. It may not end up, we may not end up at a place of an organizational review where we say, divide this department up, mix this department, bring these departments together, but we'll definitely give you input on some options.
Okay, great, yeah, that's good to have options with our district this
If you
size.
look at the other districts that are our size, not just even here, and excluding Metro Nashville and Shelby County, they're structured differently than we are. You would notice a huge difference. Even as far as administratively, at the school level, there's structural differences.
Well, that's good that they will give that
Yes.
recommendation as well, so that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the reasons we've done this study is also to help with teacher retention. And one of the greatest weaknesses, if I'm understanding what you have presented so far, is that the gap between, I guess, beginning and topping out is rather short compared to what it should be. So would your recommendation be expanding on the top number, or would it be changing the structure as far as the step system as to how to get there, or would it be a mixture of both? Or is that kind of where we're headed?
Yeah, I think we're gonna find what's gonna work best is a mixture of both. I don't wanna get too far ahead and say this is what we would do, but I think a blend. The number of steps that you have for classified and certified, maybe that's something we need to look at, and how people progress through that system. And then also, where are they topping out? What is that final dollar amount? So I think we're gonna look at, probably want to adjust both, but I don't want to commit to that.
There you go.
And I can hit, just to give you an example, Mr. Tidwell, that's a great point. So if we're looking at our veteran employees who we have invested in, who stay with the district during hard times, if we get down to when somebody is with us, our pay scale stops at 21. And so you can't retire, well, you can, but usually people are looking for 30, so we stop at 21. And then you have I'll just take year 11. Year 11 for a bachelor's degree is 58,378. Year 12 is 58,378. Year 13 is 58,989. Year 14 is 58,989. And then the next year, you get a $110 bonus of 59,599. And so you've got a 6-year window there of not very much, and that's when we are losing our people. Not to mention our even more veteran that get like a $12 raise by the time they get to 20 and 21 years.
So we're seeing people, our staff, teachers leaving when they hit the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 year mark.
They leave there and then they leave after the 20. A lot of it's going to depend on what the other county does with insurance and when they're vested. But the way retirement's based for public educators is based on their highest 5 years. So they'll be loyal to us and stay with us, but then they look at it from a financial standpoint. They go for their highest 5 years, and it's to leave us and go to another county.
So I have so so excuse me because this is all new for me, so I will do my best not to try to bog down with tons of questions. But in regards to the tenure aspect, how does that come into play with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14? If they hit tenure and they leave the district, the clock starts all over again when they go to a new county. So how does tenure play into that?
It doesn't. So tenure would play into it as far as their ability to be re-employed the next school year. But for example, myself, when I was in the county, I had tenure, and then the state tenure laws changed. So I went to Bedford County. Dr. Anthony, I think, was the exact same way. Went to a different county, was granted tenure there, but under that model, it didn't change the number of years of service that I was still getting credit for. I was still getting years of service based on the years of education in Tennessee, or really just teaching. Then when I came back to Rutherford County, the state law says after 3 years and 2 years of above expectation scores, you get your tenure back. So I got my tenure back as a teacher. And so that is, it doesn't impact their years of experience or portion on the step, but great question.
Okay.
And thinking about that 39.5% range spread that I mentioned before, if I take your classified hourly and your IT positions, your other, I'd say health services, kind of student services positions out of those ranges, your classified hourly is only 30% range spread, looking at those guys by themselves.
And you recommended at least 50, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least 50.
Are we looking at, let's just pick up the EA situation. Are we looking at those that have degrees versus non-degrees? That's never been a difference. They've always been treated the same. I personally think it's too low. I think it is a career path for a lot of women, a lot of men, and we're going to take that into accounting.
I would recommend those EA positions, and those are a difficult, challenging, and rewarding position. And what we are seeing in a lot of other areas people are starting to do to really value those positions is creating a differentiation between them. So degree, non-degree, the level of need of the students that they're working with is also taken into account, so you can create a separation there as well. So those are all things that we'd want to talk about. Right. And I would look at that in a few different classifications. I mean, not just those, but that one would be one that I definitely want to talk about.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if there's some distinction there with the EA classification between a degree and non-degree. And if there's a step up of some sort where if they already have a degree and they move into a teaching or something, I don't know if that's a possibility, but if there's some kind of step up pay when they move into that position. I don't know if it will be vertical, horizontal, you guys figure that out, but
I appreciate you taking into account the fact that the job description, the job duties, not all EAs do the same job. Right. There's different, they're asked to do different things, and some of them are very mentally taxing, especially if you're in SPED,
yes.
Structured settings,
yes.
CDCs.
Yes.
ESL.
Yep.
ESL, we definitely need to be looking at our EAs that are serving ESL because they are
absolutely. Yes,
absolutely.
10 times the amount.
Yeah, there should be some gradual differences between those different categories because they require different set of skill sets. And I've been working in several capacities as a SPED lately, and it's very different and it's eye-opening. So I agree with you, all of you guys' assessment on that, and to include that as part of our analysis and expectations and goals with this study. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any other comments or questions? We'll entertain a motion.
So I've got to read it.
I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate it.
No, you're very welcome. I appreciate working with you guys.
No, that was my fault, Ms. Sharp, because I started reading and then I said, nope, let's wait and let her present first. So,
No worries.
So salary study, additional scope of work with Evergreen Solutions. So Rutherford County Schools senior leadership team is requesting additional information to adequately address staffing, salary, and the business model for Rutherford County Schools. The scope of work will include the following: Their tasks: administer the job assessment tool to all classified hourly, salaried, and certified staff, excluding excluders, estimated to be 2,100 employees. Analyze the job assessment tool data and develop a hierarchy of classifications, identifying any position that needs to be evaluated and adjustment to pay grade assignment or whose job description does not reflect the employee's current role. 3, review all classification findings with Rutherford Project Team, edit as needed to ensure the hierarchy reflects operational instructional needs. 4, collect staffing level data from up to 10 peer districts to determine comparable level of staffing across all central office departments and support positions. 5, develop a solution file with recommendations to all pay grades, alignment of all classification, and assignment to their appropriate pay plan and grade. Develop pay plans that provide the district with a mechanism to manage all employees on their appropriate pay plan. 6, travel for 2 staff members to go to the district to review classifications and staffing data with district staff. Return travel to present final project presentation if requested, and I did tell them we would request that in person. 7, train HR staff on management of the plans. And 8, job description updates can be completed as an add-on if needed. Otherwise, raw data will be provided to the district to update job descriptions internally. Anticipated completion date is 2/24/23 to include final budget project and final report. Job description would be completed 45 days later. And so recommended approval, motion to approve the additional scope of work with Evergreen Solutions is presented for the cost of $48,000 to be funded out of ESSER 3.0's Recruit and Retain.
Ms. Bratton?
Move to approve.
Yeah, I was going to, go ahead, Ms. Maxwell.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor, say aye. Anyone wish to oppose, abstain. Motion passes to fund the Evergreen additional scope of work.
Thank you, and our staff thanks you because that was stuff we were going to have to undertake somehow too, so thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd be able to do that on top of everything else.
So number 10, special education physical therapist job description, tab 2. The positions provide physical therapy services, which will engage eligible students with disabilities to benefit from their special education program. Essential job duties and qualifications are listed in the job description attached. This job description will give us the ability to move from a private contractor to a Rutherford County Schools employee. Funding will be paid through IDE Part B funds. Recommended approval, motion to approve the special education physical therapist position as presented.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell and Ms. Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes to approve a special education physical therapist position.
All right, number 11, insurance tab 3. So the first one, this resolution is to ensure that classified retirees will receive the same discounted health premiums as the certified staff for 2023, depending on the years of service at retirement. Mr. Reed, do we need to read that resolution? Or are we okay to vote on it since they have a copy of it? Okay,
Do we need to sign that tonight? Are we all going to sign it?
probably.
Okay.
So recommended approval, motion to approve the 2023, the Tennessee Plan Resolution for classified retirees as presented. Just as a summary, this covers some of our classified staff, so they'll have benefits that match what retirees of certified staff do, and starting in 2023.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes to approve the Tennessee Plan Resolution for classified retirees as presented.
Thank you. Number 2, the retirement benefits grid outlines the requirements needed for a retiree to be eligible for any subsidized payments from Rutherford County Board of Education. Again, we discussed this at our work session on Tuesday, took it from an Excel spreadsheet covering many different pages and put it into one 2-page document. So thank you again to our insurance staff for working on that. Recommended approval, motion to approve the 2023 retirement benefits grid as presented.
And thank you, Ms. Bratton, for all the work that you've done on this for the retirees.
It was a joy.
I know they appreciate you. Any comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes to approve the 2023 retirement grid, benefits grid as presented.
All right, thank you. Mr. Runyon, do we need to change this classified hourly bonuses to stipend in our, I know the motion reads correctly. Does it matter?
We do not, because I spoke to we spoke to the courthouse today, and they said what they're going to do is they're going to pay that out as a separate check, and that does not affect the tax rate.
Perfect. So we're making sure
That's
that our
even
people
better.
weren't going to be taxed differently because of the way this was worded, so.
That's even better. Great.
Okay. So number 12, classified hourly bonuses through ESSER 2.0 funds. So stay with me, guys. This is a long one. So authorization of $600 of non-recurring additional pay for extra duties brought about by staffing issues due to the COVID-19 pandemic to be funded with the ESSER 2.0 funds. The effect of the COVID-19 pandemic has brought about additional daily duties to our classified hourly Rutherford County Schools employees. To help compensate for these additional duties, Director of Schools requests approval of non-recurring additional pay program that will provide all Rutherford County Schools classified hourly full and part-time employees a bonus of $600 or $300 for part-time. The payment is contingent on the following stipulations being met by the school employee. Funding for this one-time bonus initiative with an estimated cost of $1.2 million is to be fully funded with ESSER 2.0 grant funds, and this program is contingent on the approval of the requested ESSER 2.0 grant application as filed with the State of Tennessee Department of Education. Criteria for the first bonus. The employee cannot have a break in employment with Rutherford County Schools between October 1st, 2022 and January 27th, 2023 in order to receive payment for first semester. The employee remains on active employee status during this time period, available for and reporting for duty as assigned by RCS. Rutherford County Schools hourly classified employees satisfying these requirements will receive a $300 bonus, $150 for part-time on January 27th, 2023, less applicable payroll deductions. Criteria for second bonus, the employee cannot have a break in employment with Rutherford County Schools between February 1st, 2023 and May 26th, 2023 in order to receive payment for the second semester. The employee remains on active employee status during this time period, available for and reporting for duties assigned by RCS. Rutherford County Schools hourly classified employees satisfying these requirements will receive a $300 bonus or $150 for part-time in June of 2023, less applicable payroll deductions. Recommended approval, motion to authorize a $600 or $300 for part-time per Rutherford County Schools employee bonus program to compensate for additional duties from staffing issues brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic as detailed above to be fully funded with ESSER 2.0 as presented.
Just for clarity, I know you mentioned this at the work session, but for those who tuned into the board meetings, the reason that this was broke up into two payments is because it is softer on them taxing.
It is, and this way they don't have to wait until the end of the year to receive anything. And again, this goes back to we looked at doing a additional change to the classified salary, but since those aren't guaranteed funds and we're right in the middle of trying to do that, that wasn't allowable by ESSER.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to oppose or abstain? Motion passes to authorize the $600 Rutherford County Schools Employee Bonus Program.
Thank you. Number 13, Jane Ross Tutoring, tab 4. Again, this is ACT Boot Camp. Jane Ross Tutoring will provide one day of 2 3-hour professional development sessions on February 11th, which is a Saturday, for Rutherford County teachers. The professional development will be conducted with one session for math and science, and a separate session will be conducted for English and social studies. Payment for this training will be provided with ESSER 3.0 funds allocated for the high schools and will not exceed $32,000 for the teacher training materials, district license, and all travel-related expenses. Proposal is attached. Payment will be payable upon receipt of an invoice after the training. In addition, 60 teachers across the district will train over 1,300 junior students from February 25th through March 6, 2023, to prepare students for the upcoming March 7th ACT test. This ACT boot camp opportunity will be provided to students free of charge, a $525 savings per student if they were to attend this boot camp independently. These 60 teachers will receive a payment of $50 an hour for the 27 hours of teaching ACT strategies through ESSER 3.0 funds and will not exceed $96,000. James, can I go ahead and put on the record I do not want a snow day during any time of that week, because I go ahead as I'm reading February and March, terrifies
Only
me.
if you want to tempt fate. That's right.
Gotcha. So recommended approval, motion to approve training with Jane Ross Tutoring not to exceed $32,000 in teacher stipends for training and teaching of ACT boot camps for students not to exceed $96,000 as presented. All expenses will be paid with ESSER 3.0 funds.
So we had an article that came out about the ACT scores just in the last day.
I don't know, I have not seen it.
They were flat. I have not had a chance to read it, but they said that they were kind of flat.
Yeah, and that would be expected, especially when you're looking at students from ACT who, a lot of that ACT performance, they say the skills are determined by the time or shown to them by the time they're in 8th grade. Our juniors had interrupted 7th and 8th grade instruction, and so it would not surprise me to see that.
During the work session, there was mention about some benchmarks. What are the benchmarks to keep this program going?
So we would hope to be able to see, one, we want to make sure that we are covering back to where we have been previously. But when you're looking at ACT, I mean, it is a slow improvement, and if you can get anything from a 0.1 to a 0.2 improvement in a year, what you're doing is working. It's not as simple as that, though, because we have to track the cohort, and we I know in education we compare kids to last year's performance, but it is a different cohort of students. And for a district our size, we're looking at 3,800 juniors compared to last year's 3,800 juniors. So we need to not only look at their performance to last year's juniors, but also look at what is their performance on EOC, all those different types of things.
So we're not taking averages. These are not an average of a percentile.
No.
Good questions. Any other questions or
I
comments?
do have another question, really not pertaining to this, but with all the focus on the third grade retention law, are we doing a similar program for third grade that would help prepare those kids to make sure they're ready for that test?
Yep, so that has been more of a year-long focus than just a 2-week intensive. And so our students that, Dr. Chastain, do you want to hit on, because I know we're about to hit January hard and heavy with parent notification, all these different types of things.
Yeah, so keep in mind, we already have our tutoring in place for elementary and our summer programming that started previously that's been in the works. We finalized our parent communication today, actually, so it's in the process of being translated. That will go out with report cards, with our the screener results, so that parents kind of know where they are. We're adding some resources on our website, so that has been a push throughout the year, and those supports have been there for kids that are struggling in those areas already.
And one thing on the website is that we discussed it today, we're creating a section dedicated to this state law so that parents know exactly where to go and it's not hard to find.
And I'm sorry for asking this question, but the kids that are not near or at, I think that's the criteria, are we setting time with the parent and having mandatory meetings to say this is where your kid is at?
We don't have mandatory meetings. As you can imagine, that would be difficult to enforce in any way, but every parent's getting notification with individualized reports on where their student is and where they are at risk. Obviously, we would love for them to reach out to teachers and principals. We're going to do another push right before our parent conferences. So again, yeah, all that is top of mind. It's just a matter of getting that communication out.
Well, I would think that since this is mandatory, and with IEPs, it's mandatory to have a meeting. And if your child is not if your child is at risk, there should be a mandatory, being that is a federal law. Will that be something that should be considered from that standpoint?
It's mandatory that we correspond.
Right.
So remember, this is students across the spectrum of ability levels. So we have done the communication, and we have gone above and beyond in terms of what we are communicating to those parents. I would love if every parent came and discussed it with their teacher.
Unfortunately, yeah, you can set a meeting and it happens. There's parents that don't come.
Sure, well, yes, that happens even with IEPs, because there's advocates for that. But it's just with all that work that has to be done up front, because of the fact that at the end of the year, it's either passing or not, and there's no plan in place, just as a way of, I guess, having a safeguard around our district that we've done everything imaginable possible so that whatever repercussions come back to us, we've got it all covered, so.
I'm open to any and all suggestions beyond what we're doing. And I think we are trying to, it's a delicate balance, because we know that our teachers are working as hard as they possibly can. Nobody has spent the last 3 years doing the bare minimum and hoping kids can't read.
Right.
So we're already doing everything possible, and you can see that when you go into our schools. So we don't want parents to panic. And like I said, we have the infrastructure in place. We're prepared for those summer camps, even if the whole third grade needed to be retained. We have the infrastructure ready to adjust and make sure that that summer programming is there. And for tutoring, we have the contingencies for that as well. It's just a matter of making sure that communication goes out and that people see it. And we're going to hit every possible way we can.
And we've talked about it with principals that we are, and with our Educator Advisory Council, which is a group of teachers I have that I meet with. We met yesterday and talked about this, that we are planning, no changes are made by the General Assembly, and the highest number possible like we had last year that would have possibly, we are providing and planning our logistics behind serving 2,000 third graders if we needed to, and what that would look like, with the reality knowing that potentially some changes may happen, and we have a large group of students who would be excluded from that automatic retention.
Well, thank you for trying to be proactive and trying to get a lot of things done. I know there were a lot of holes that were not really filled in, that we had to fill in because we didn't get that guidance from the state. So I really do appreciate, I know I speak on behalf of the board when we say thank you very much for taking this very seriously and trying to be proactive at the same time in preparing for whatever outcomes may be at the end of the day. So thank you.
So one question, when you send that physical piece of paper home to the parents, and I'm gonna tell off on my son, perhaps we should do a robocall to the parents and say, and you may already have that in plan, because, you know, there was stuff that was left in his locker or left in his vehicle, or, you know, boys are kind of like that, so.
Yeah, we can do that. All we have to do is be able to pull a spreadsheet of the students who are receiving those letters, and we can send a message just to remind parents that there's an important letter coming home that they need to review with their child.
Do you have any estimate of what a number that we're looking at, where you have a better number next year?
On who's getting the letter?
On
All of
yes.
Yeah, every third grader will
every
get a
single
letter.
Every
child
third
is
grader's
getting
gonna
that
get the letter.
No,
Okay.
no, not every third grader is getting the letter.
Every third grader is getting a letter and a report on where they are
Oh, I'm sorry.
currently.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I
Okay.
misunderstood the question.
Yep, so,
So,
We are-
so
it's going
within,
to everyone.
within the
Everybody.
third grade, and
That's
within that
even
third grade, do
easier.
we,
I misunderstood who was getting the letter. Yes, it'll be even easier to get a message to all third grade parents, as we can just do a message to third grade parents.
It will
Is there
also
an-
be in Spanish and Arabic.
nice, okay. So, thank you so much for
Sorry
that,
about that.
especially from the north end. So do we have maybe an inkling of maybe how many students that might be?
you can go off last year. Yeah, it's fine.
It's hard to gauge. Last year's number, the worst possible scenario would have been around 1,800 students. That's without excluding the exceptions, like for reading disabilities, students with disabilities, students with fewer than 2 years of English language learning, and kids that have previously been retained. So there's several different exceptions. So that's worst possible
Right,
scenario.
okay.
That's the number we're using to gauge our infrastructure.
I think that's probably it. That's,
I honestly feel like with some minor tweaks that might come to the law, I feel like we'd be hovering more around the 200 to 300 area.
yeah, okay.
But we're planning for 1,800.
Yes. Well, we're all keeping an eye on them, and we're staying in front of their faces for that, so thank you.
I had one of the conversations with the teachers today said, where are you going to get all of these third grade teachers? And I said, the fourth grade teachers. Anybody in fourth grade?
Do
Yeah.
it. Do it.
James, you mentioned there's going to be like a dedicated part of the website to this.
Yes, sir.
Correct. When do you think that might be up? I know that parents, it's kind of died down now, but as we get around after Christmas, they're all going to pick it right back up and be looking for information.
Right, it's going to be done over the break.
Oh, wow.
The person in my department who I've worked on that is eager for something to do during the break, so I assigned it. I assigned it to him today, and he's going to have it up. It's not difficult to do. Once we have the content, the way our website works, we can have it posted and created within a matter of hours.
Can we have it on the homepage as it's on real estate versus
we can
embedded
have-
somewhere else?
So the way our website's designed, I hope you gupe like the new design.
We do. It's very nice and clean.
I
Thank
was
you.
looking for some affirmation, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I gave it to
Very nice.
you. I
on
hope
the,
you accepted.
You're keeping us on our toes.
Those main shuffles that are on the front page, we made them large and prominent so we can put this type of important information there so it's easy to find. It will have its own dedicated slide that will lead directly to that. And like I said, as soon as we get the content the way we want it, creating the page is very simple.
Can it be the permanent slide? Not to be
Websites are
removed?
dynamic, so they're never permanent, but it will be. there
Well,
for a
I meant the
long time.
slider to be permanent, meaning the same continuous slider within the dynamic of however you publish it. I don't know
Yeah,
back
and not
end
to
of
be
it, but
facetious, I'm not trying to be facetious, but there are
Sure.
lots of people competing for a spot on the website. So right now we have 3 slides that rotate through. I foresee this being the 4th one. We also have our choice program that's underway right now.
Yeah.
Parents are looking for that information, and we have a couple of other important things. So it'll be very simple to get to. It's easy to navigate, and there's not 20 slides, so it's
Right.
there's just a.
I hope not. I hope it'd be no more than 5.
We
with the
have
slider
3
and the
now, and I
hero.
foresee 4 when this. We have 1 for job openings, which is important. 1 for choice. I can't remember the other one right now, but then this will be the 4th one.
Okay, great.
But we'll be the first one in the slide when we come back from break.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm going to tell Grayson that you guys are all going to be judging his work and that he better do a good job.
You don't, are you serious about that? Do you really want me to look at it? And
I assume
I
that
will
you're going to look
be
at it.
more than happy to do that.
This has gone further than I thought it would, so I'm. Okay. Any other questions?
The only thing I would just ask, I just know there's going to be a lot of anxious parents.
Sure. I have a third grade student, and to show you how anxious I am, when I saw the letter today, I said, I need my report ASAP. I'm one of them. I get it. And so, I kid, but I have a third grader, and I'm also concerned about it. And he was affected by COVID because he was the first, that kindergarten class that their year got cut short. And so, even at my home, we've noticed he seems to be a little off track based on his older brother. And so, that's something that we want to see. And I found the report to be very helpful and easy to read. They printed mine off today for me. And it gives my wife and I something to work on at home. We know where to kind of focus our efforts. So I think parents will find this very useful, and we're going to do everything we can, because I feel their pain, to make sure that they have the tools they need to help get their child there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's going to help just having somewhere that we can direct parents so they can see if their child, does have to do some of the extra options there, but they want to know what those options are that are available, and they can plan for that. Just in case that were to be an issue. So,
as Dr. Chastain said, the elementary principals and the third grade team, they are very interested in seeing these students succeed. So they have some skin in the game as well.
So so that we talked about the RCS website, but what about the elementary school sites or microsites? Are they going to put that information on their microsites?
They're going to offer all that same information so they can cross-promote it on all the elementary sites, and usually they want that kind of thing that I already have ready for them so they don't have to create it. So absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah, if we can have it front and center as a real estate. Does every microsite have the same template?
The new design that we have, it's built on the same platform. The new design that we have, the district site looks slightly different. For now, we're working on doing the school sites for phase 2, which is what we're working on. But they still have the same types of slides. It's not as large as the new one on the district site, but they have the same ability to put the photo up. So the simple answer is yes. It's slightly different, but it's basically the same.
Okay, great.
I will add one request, and we've talked to elementary principals about this as well, but if you do get questions on after the material gets sent home, and if you still are getting questions, just let us know. We're going to have a frequently asked question document that we'll update as we get questions, so just please forward those to us.
Can we, I would like that information as well. I'm sure the board will also like that information. If you can just email us the links. We don't have to have the PDFs attached. If it's on the website, just please send me the links to that. That way I can also put it up in my own Facebook page for my public figure.
We'll push it out as well on our social media channels. Sorry to take over so much of this, but we're really going to be pushing Instagram in the second semester. We're using Instagram now, but it's become so popular, and there's so much chaos with Twitter right now that we're going to really be pushing Instagram as a third option for parents. We'll have this same information going out that way too, and that way parents don't have to go looking for it. It comes to where they are.
Great. Well, thank you very much for giving us an update on the third grade, because this is the first year that this has been implemented, so there's going to be quite a bit kinks that we're going to be running into, and so it's good to know some of this stuff up front.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Young.
Sorry, I decided we're
Oh, it's
track our
okay, Mr.
discussion
Young.
here.
Do we have
We
a
should have
second?
had an agenda that said update on third grade retention law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes for the ACT boot camp.
All right, thank you. 14, curriculum and instruction, approval of potential charter review committee members. So 2023 charter application review proposed committee, Caleb Tidwell, Caitlin Bullard, Elizabeth Davis, Devola Mormon, Courtney Brown, Alexandria Jackson, Bree Cole, Cedric Dukes, Kyle Nix, Brian Lewis, Grayson Maxwell, Sherry McCreary, John Perazio, Kay Martin. This follows Rutherford County Board of Education Policy 1.901. States review teams shall be comprised of members of the administrative staff for the district, community members, and a member of the board with relevant educational, organizational, financial, and legal experience. Recommended approval, motion to approve the 2023 Charter Review Committee as presented.
And luckily, this year, we only have one application.
Correct.
So, any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Motion is approved for the Charter Review Committee. Ms. Brown.
All right, number 15, legal tab 5, add a county transfer student 1. So the board's been requested to admit a transfer student from another school system under discipline. The student was expelled for making a threat to the school involving a weapon. According to policy 6.318, the board may deny admission of any student except those in state custody. When a student transfers from another school system while under the expulsion, or under suspension or expulsion, director of schools recommendations deny admission, recommended approval, motion to admit or deny the request for this add a county transfer student as presented.
Any comments or questions?
Motion to deny the request.
Is there a second? Is that Ms. Rosales? Thank you. Thank you so much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or wish to abstain? Motion passes to deny admission.
All right, next we have our recommended policy changes, and just as we did the first reading, I'd request that we pull B and C for individual votes, because those were not a consensus at our policy committee meeting or our first reading. Any objection to that? Okay. Can you pull up the policies? All right, so as I will read each one, we'll stop and kind of so that way everybody can see what the changes were. So we will go through policy A. These policies below recommended on the second and final reading. The below policies were recommended on the first reading on November 22nd, 2022. So first, we have policy 1.400, school board meetings, adds language for board agendas and changes the size of, no, that was one we wanted to pull, wasn't it? So we need to pull A, B, nope, just A and B. So we'll read that one by itself and then vote on it separate. Yep, so this one is by itself. So policy 1.400, school board meetings, adds language for board agendas and changes the size of signs allowed in the boardroom. And so we have that before you, change it to 18 by 24, and the agenda should be posted 5 days prior to the board meeting. So recommended approval, motion to adopt the above policy on the second and final of 2 readings as presented. Roll call.
Move to approve.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose. I wish to oppose.
All right, number 2, or B, policy 1.404, appeals to and appearances before the board, changes the time for making application to speak to the board, and this changes it from 24 hours to noon, 12 p.m. of the day of the board meeting. And so again, recommended approval, motion to adopt the above policy on the second and final of 2 readings as presented.
Move to approve. Aye.
I oppose.
Yep, rest will be all together, so I'll read all of these together except for the new policy. It'll be separate. So C, policy 1.602, administrative committee, changes term limits for policy committee members. You'll see that changes it from 2 years to 1 year. D, policy 1.703, school attendance zones and exemptions, adds language to clarify the process for zone exemptions. This changed some of our timelines and really aligned us better with Tennessee Code Annotated. Next, we have E, policy 1.901, charter school applications, updates deadlines pursuant to State Board of Education rules. And you'll see it was 4:30, now it changes to 11:59 p.m. F, policy 1.903, charter school oversight, updates language pursuant to the Board of Education rules. G, policy 2.810, payment procedures, updates the information provided to the board regarding revenues and expenditures. And that was one we talked about, instead of having a list of bills for each payment each month, available upon request, and we'll continue doing the monthly updates like we do. H, policy 4.602, grade point average GPA and class rank 912, clarifies language for class rank and recalculation of GPA. I, policy 6.202, homeschools, adds language that homeschooled students can participate in JROTCS pursuant to federal regulations. J, policy 6.317, student disciplinary hearing authority, adds review of DHA decisions by the director of schools. K, policy 6.407, school social work services, changes language to clarify services to school social workers. This was a huge rewrite, basically a complete rewrite because it was over 10 years old. L, policy 6.701, student solicitations, fundraising activities, changes language to allow the principal to approve fundraising activities. And so recommended approval, motion to adopt the above policies on the second and final of 2 readings as presented. And I'll come back. Yes, C through L.
I'm sorry, that's policy C through L. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tidwell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? C through L passes.
And then last new policy, policy 3.501, water access, new policy to address water access for students. And we did add that addition to say and in between the cafeteria, auditorium, and the different levels of the school. So recommended approval, motion to adopt the above policy on the second and final of 2 readings is presented.
Move to approve.
Thank you so much. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Darby. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Wish to abstain? Motion passes to adopt the policy for our water access.
All right, so Financial Matters, tab 6, Fund 141, General Purpose School Budget Amendment. This amendment increases budgeted Fund 141 revenue and expenditures to recognize the additional awarded amount of fiscal year 22-23 voluntary pre-K grant. This reflects the additional amount of $88,983 to the grant award that was approved by the State Department of Education. This additional grant award will support opening a 22nd voluntary pre-K classroom in Rutherford County Schools. The classroom location will be Plainview Elementary, where we currently have a full class of 20 VPK students. We have an additional 40 incoming qualifying 40-year-old students on waiting lists for Plainview Elementary and Christian Elementary School that will help to fill the seats in an additional Plainview Elementary VPK classroom. Recommended approval, motion to amend the fiscal year 22-23 general purpose school budget is presented for a total of $88,983 to budget for the additional voluntary pre-K grant funding as presented.
Any comments or questions?
The funding is a grant, correct?
Yes, it is. It doesn't cover it completely. Part of it is general purpose funds because this covers teacher salary, benefits, and then it comes with 2 EAs as well and classroom supplies. So there is part of us that we pick up locally.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Rosales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to abstain or oppose? Motion passes for the general purpose school budget for the voluntary pre-K.
All right, next we have 18. We did our financial report on Tuesday. Only thing I would add is that I emailed and you have a copy of our budget calendar for fiscal year 23-24. We are under a consolidated budget, which means we have our own finance department, but we depend on county government for all approvals. That's why we have to go before them for every budget amendment, health and ed, and everything. So on the back of it, you have what their county government budget calendar is that applies to us, but on the front are all of our dates, and you'll see we have already started. So for people that think how long of a process this year, I mean, we start a good 7 months before our budget is actually in place. So you will see all those dates. They align with our board work sessions and board meetings, and we'll continue to review each fund so that we get more comfortable with that as we move into that. Our principals just received their forms before our meeting. They have their time to be able to get feedback from their teachers, from their staff, their leadership team, and then you guys will have feedback from departments and principals as we start to move forward. So,
I would go ahead and put these in your calendar.
absolutely, yes.
just for grins and giggles.
Yeah, because a lot of these are very much set because we are hitting the deadline set by the county. The County Private Act of 1975 says we have to have it to the or to health and ed by May 15th. There is one date I wanted to count out, May 23rd, I believe, on our school board calendar, and that's something I think we had it as a placeholder because we didn't know what date that was going to be. It's always a joint meeting with health and ed and the board. It is going to be May 23rd, and that's at the historic courthouse.
So when is the salary study coming back?
February, so they're supposed to have it back to us by February 24th, so that gives us enough time to go ahead and look at it, and you'll see the way we have it split out. We'll have it ready to discuss at our board budget retreat, and then that'll give us time to put different options in for us to discuss before April 6th, which is our 141, because that is a huge item, salaries that impacts all of our budgets, and so we wanted to make sure we had time to discuss, get some direction from the board on March 9th and 10th on what options you would like, and that gives our staff a couple weeks to be able to input everything.
Okay, great.
And we are changing kind of how we're doing that, so I've asked our staff to book off 2 weeks, and so every principal in the past necessarily didn't get as much feedback as they needed to, so the principals are going to come in and meet with our department heads, assistant superintendents, and myself, and they're going to have 30, 45 minutes to present their budget so we can talk about what's applicable, what's not, so that we'll have some real feedback for them.
I have a question. Within that new scope that we just voted on, do you foresee any potential roadblocks to meeting this deadline?
I don't. They actually gave themselves an extra week because the deadline they're trying to hit is February 15th.
Okay, we don't have to wait on anybody on like a different body for data or?
No, because we had to put this, we would have had to wait for extra funding and then go through the whole cycle, but we were able to put it into ESSER, recruit and retain, so we'll be good.
Okay, great. That's good.
They're ready to move and send this out January 3rd, so.
Great.
So the May 23rd meeting is at 5:30, or do they start at
Health and Ed starts at 6.
6?
Budget starts at 5:30, Health and Ed 6, County Commission 6. That's all I have on financial. Insurance, I know Dr. Anthony had something.
Let's put on your desk the results of our collaborative conferencing. The votes came in from last week, and so we will be entering into collaborative conferencing with REA exclusively. As you see with the results, they had a little bit over 403 extra votes, so they've met that 50% plus one threshold. And then number two, when they voted on who they wanted to represent them, REA was the one that was designated. PET and the unaffiliated did not get the required percentage for representation. So we'll be doing that basically March, April, and May, and in our last meeting at the end of May, we'll come to you with our MOU. We did not have the votes last year to enter into it, but previously we had our agreement for 3 years. So we look forward to working with our REA staff and our central office employees, and that will be around the corner very soon.
So is this contract good for 3 years, or is it that that language is not going to change, the 3-year?
That's correct. The agreement is for 3 years, and then at the end of 3 years, we would enter again into the voting situation to see if they wish to enter it again. Last year, they didn't have the numbers, and so we didn't enter into collaborative conferencing last year.
Okay.
And this is all outlined in Tennessee Code annotated back when it changed in 2011, 10? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Anthony, I believe Mr. Young and I are the only ones that were on the board at the time that we did the last contract. And for the new board members, it was a proposal, and I can't remember what it was, but whatever the proposal was, it was not out of bounds, and it was approved.
That's correct. We have designated items that we're allowed to talk about. We looked through policy, and we're able to update some great conditions for our employees to be added additionally. So we look forward to that. It's a great partnership.
Thank you for that.
So they're going to be, so their recommendation is going to be in regards to policy, not necessarily benefits or things of that nature?
So I know one that came up last time was sabbatical leave. It didn't have enough to go through, but we did make a couple changes as far as like what we considered a family member for bereavement leave. The additional one that was added that was big was in the past, you could only have 2 personal days, and so if you didn't use your personal days, it rolled over into a sick day, and so then based on your leave time, or how many years of service, you could bank up to 3 or 4 personal days. Okay. So those are the type of things.
Okay, great.
It's typically minor things, so it'll be at the board's discretion to approve.
Yep. All right, director's update, just a couple things. Yes, we are in winter break, starting with students tomorrow. Tomorrow is a 2-hour day. The unfortunate part of it being a 2-hour day, it is an attendance counted day. That is a day that is one of our 180 days, and so it does count as a full attendance day, despite what the rumor always is of if a kid doesn't go to school, the school doesn't get funded. That is completely inaccurate. It's based on our membership, not based on our attendance for the day. So that's not going to, if kids don't go to school, and that's always the argument about, you're not doing a snow day because you're not going to get paid. That has absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. And so even though our central office, or our schools are closed, our central office is still open. So we are here Monday through Thursday next week, and then Tuesday through Thursday the next week. So we follow county government, and they recognize Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, since those are on weekends, it's the Friday and Monday proceeding. So I've asked our staff to please, we get vacation days, please get out of here and take some time as well. Only other couple things, title funds. You will see a Chalkbeat article in the next couple days, more than likely, that talks about our federal funds. We received our federal fund designation. We did receive some decreases in some of our areas, but increases in other areas. One of the big ones was Title I, and so it dropped over 5%, which is kind of shocking. It was an overall allocation difference for the state of Tennessee, not necessarily Rutherford County in general, but our IDEA Part B special education went up like $600,000. So we're fine as far as that goes. We always have carryover money for that reason, and Dr. Goleen does an amazing job budgeting, but just wanted you to be aware. If you hear that rumor, yes, that is true. We didn't find out about it till this morning or late last night. So.
How was that possible when we added Laverne High School to Title I?
Because the state's allocation was less. So we got a less of an allocation per student than we have in the past.
Okay.
Yep. We didn't expect it either, but we have contingencies in place. Want to thank we have, I believe, 4 principals here. So if you don't know, we have Aaron Culver. He is from Kittrell. So Aaron's here. We have Randy Uptain. He is Las Casas. We have Dr. King from Homer Pittard Campus School. And then we have Dr. Brown from Daniel McKee. So they're here tonight. I always want to recognize when they are here. Only 2 quick things. We have a celebration. So we received this the other day from the Tennessee Arts Academy. That Tennessee Arts Academy, that Rutherford County Schools is an arts partner school system. And so in recognition of your strong commitment and support to the arts and arts of education. So congratulations to that. We are notifying parents. Skyward will be down for 4 days during the break. I don't remember. Anybody remember what those days were by chance? Through 27th? December 23rd through 27th, or it's during Christmas break, or during Christmas week. I sure hope kids aren't checking their grades, but some will be. They won't be able to. It'll be down for an update. And last, I just want to thank you guys for all your support as we've kind of moved forward for this first semester.
Alice, do you have anything for TL?
I don't have anything, but I can tell you right now, this legislation will start next month in January, and there's already bills are starting to be filed. So I am keeping an eye on track, the ones that pertain to education. Just because a rep or senator files a bill doesn't necessarily mean it'll make it through the process, but I will give you next time a list of the ones that have been filed currently within the ones in the committee, the education committee, on both the House and the rep at the local level.
Any other general discussion? I just want to thank our central office staff and our teachers and administrators out in the district. We've had a great rebound. I feel like we've had a great rebound year from COVID. And the board certainly thanks each and every one of you, and that we ask that you have a safe and wonderful holiday. And we'll see you back here on the 3rd of January. And if there's no further discussion, no opposition, we are adjourned. Thank you.